The Culling game lasted for a couple of months, but how fast do you think some of the strongest characters in anime history would clear the entire arena? So, to make things easier for myself, I've decided to rank anime's greatest MCs on a tier list based on feats and speed. So let me break it down for you. S tiers are reserved for characters who can blow up entire planets for fun, A tiers are for the ones who outclass the JJK cast during the event, and every tier that comes afterwards is pretty self-explanatory. So let's start with Shonen Jump's golden boy, Monkey D. Luffy. Luffy is absolutely broken, with advanced Conqueror's Haki, armament Haki armor, and Gear 5th letting him twist the environment with pure imagination, almost like something straight out of a Looney Tunes show. On top of that, he has insane level feats, reacting to Kuma's lightspeed beam attacks in base form, casually calling them too slow, and keeping up with characters like Kizaru. Luffy is way stronger and faster than anyone in all of JJK. The only real counter, though, to Luffy's overwhelming abilities is domain expansion, but that wouldn't actually work either because domain expansion's sure-hit effects only apply to objects or people imbued with cursed energy, and Luffy has zero cursed energy, so he'd be completely unaffected by the guaranteed hits inside of the domain. Now, you're probably thinking this would be a total walk in the park for Luffy, right? Well, not quite. Even though he outclasses everyone in the Culling games by a country mile, taking on several players simultaneously, each with some crazy cursed techniques, would still be a hassle. And from what we've seen, Luffy's stamina isn't endless in prolonged fights, especially when he's using Gear 5. So, with everything accounted for, I would place Luffy comfortably in A tier. He'd still clear the Culling games way faster than most, probably in a week or less, but it wouldn't be an instant stomp. However, a character who would instantly blitz through the Culling games is none other than the GOAT himself, Son Goku. Honestly, what's there even left to say, guys, about Goku? Not only is he a god-tier character who's basically been the bane of every DC Superman fanboy's existence, he's the single most glazed anime MC in existence, and for good reason. From completely insane feats like traveling entire galaxies at the speed of light thanks to his instant transmission technique, to clashing punches with a literal god of destruction and nearly destroying the entire Universe 7 in the process, Goku can demolish Kenjaku and Sukuna both ganged up against him with his hands tied behind his back, while sleeping through the entire thing dreaming about that one time he raced Piccolo during an anime-only filler episode. Really, just speculating whether he'd struggle with any of the players in the Culling games despite their broken abilities sounds like an absolute waste of your time. I'm not even gonna bother telling you about the long list of his strengths or techniques, just visit the DBZ wiki page on him for that. So easily, Goku is S tier. Moving on. Now here's a wild card who'd give a Yuji a run for his money. Madara Uchiha. Madara, aka the ghost of the Uchiha clan, is basically the LeBron James of anime ninjas. This guy was killing adults before he was even awakening his Sharingan. At his peak, he was going full-scale wars one-on-one against someone called the literal god of shinobis without even breaking a sweat. This is the guy who, at his peak, fought the 5 Kage, the strongest shinobi alive at the time, backed by entire armies, and toyed with them like it was nothing. He dropped in, humiliated all 5 at once, and walked away without a scratch and went to Burger King. He even had Naruto, the actual protagonist, questioning if he was really the main character of his own story. That's how overwhelming Madara Uchiha was. Now, with that said, could Madara actually clear the entire Culling games? Well, it depends. You see, Madara has 3 distinct forms: his base human form, Edo Tensei, and Ten Tails Jinchuriki form. The last 2 would absolutely destroy the Culling game thanks to near infinite regeneration and unlimited chakra reserves. He'd just keep coming back no matter what they throw at him. His human form, however, doesn't have any of these abilities. Just like Luffy, Madara has 0 cursed energy, so domain expansion's sure-hit effects wouldn't touch him at all. However, cursed techniques are a different story. Some are straight up insane, like Takaba's Comedian, which basically lets him manipulate reality itself as long as he finds it funny. But here's the thing, Madara isn't walking in blindly to traps. With his wits and battlefield control, he'd dodge the worst matchups, outsmart players, and pick fights on his own terms. Provided he avoids getting unlucky against someone like Hakuri's Infinite Jackpot or Full Power Sukuna, he'd give high-end era reincarnations a serious run for their money, and even has a solid shot at outplaying Kenjaku's schemes. That's why I'd confidently place him in an A tier. He clears the Culling games in about a week, faster than most, with some close calls, but he gets it done. And if you thought Madara and Goku were broken picks, wait till you hear about this next character, Giovanna. If you thought domain expansions and cursed techniques were confusing, try wrapping your mind around the kind of power Giorno possesses thanks to his stand golden experience Requiem. By all means, Giorno's own physical strength is basically F tier, and his ability to tank hits might as well make him comparable to a wet napkin getting cut by the world's sharpest katana, but what he lacks for in strength and durability is made up for by the fact that his stand can basically death loop someone into infinity by removing causality itself. Now, I know this all sounds pretty confusing, but let me break it down even further for you. If someone uses a Black Flash on Giorno, Golden Experience Requiem will basically reverse the action and remove that character's ability to ever be able to perform that action against them. Experience decides to give them the Kakuin treatment. That character's getting hit by an invisible truck in a countless amount of ways. They are doomed to return to the point of death again and again thanks to that removed cause and effect ability. All while in a whole other reality, the stand creates for anyone stupid enough to even sneeze on Giorno's shoes. And guys, if you don't want me to put you in an infinite death loop, you better hit the like and subscribe button. But anyway, let's continue. Now, guys, think about it. The fact that people can't even see stands unless they're stand users themselves. Within close range, Giorno could easily surprise attack anyone and basically destroy most of the players on the board and clear the Culling games without any hiccups. Then if he gets ganged up by a team of sorcerers or God forbid a guaranteed hit demon expansion actually works on him, he can use Golden Experience Requiem to regrow entire limbs from scratch. He's basically working with infinite regen and invisible tank shots. If I were to rank Giovanna, he's easily a low S tier. He'll clear the Culling games within a couple of days. Moving on though, let's talk about a character that some people would argue doesn't even belong on this list. Saitama. When we talk about overpowered anime characters, the first two names that spring to mind are Goku and Saitama. While Goku has explainable feats that prove the worth of his training, Saitama is just plain broken. I'm talking from jumping all the way up to the moon like it's a casual hop, to sneezing half of Jupiter, which by the way is the size of over 1,300 Earths. Hitting him against someone like Sukuna or Gojo would basically be an unfair matchup. And those two aren't even the main players in the Culling games. They're just the strongest beings in the verse. And with Kenjaku, Saitama won't even wait for the boring monologue. Nothing, absolutely nothing works on Saitama. Nothing can injure him, nothing can weaken him. Funnily enough, I doubt even a domain expansion could trap this man in any void. Not even the prison realm could contain him for longer than a second. Higuruma's Shikigami would just call him innocent. What's Saitama even guilty of? Having a bad season 3 of his anime? Only shopping at discounted prices? The only person that could remotely give Saitama a run for his money would be Hikari, but even then, a jackpot still won't guarantee a win against someone like Saitama. The Caped Baldy gets an S tier from me. For clearing the Culling games probably even faster than Goku would. And if you disagree, feel free to roast me in the comments. But moving on, here's another character from the old gen, Big 3, who'd have a rough time clearing the Culling games. Ichigo Kurosaki is arguably the most broken MC in the Big 3. Kubo just ticked every power box. Shinigami, Quincy, Hollow, Visored, the works. Insane durability, Ryatsu reserves, and growth that skyrockets mid-fight. This man tanks bloodbaths that would kill anyone else and comes out stronger with attacks like Gran Rei Seto Getsuga Tensho that makes literal gods sweat. In the Culling games, he'd handle most players way better than someone like Luffy. Lightning from Kashimo, he adapts. Shikigami swarms, he blitzes or overwhelms with raw power. But the real threats are the hacks-heavy elites. Take Yuta and Rika. Fully manifested, Rika is a monster, and Yuta's copied techniques gives him endless options. Cursed speech, sky manipulation, you name it. Ichigo's speed and Ryatsu might let him pressure Yuta hard, but one bad domain or Rika grab could overwhelm him before he fully adapts. Then there's Takaba with Comedian, straight reality warping as long as he thinks it's funny. That kind of unpredictable hacks is nightmare fuel. Ichigo's no stranger to weird powers, but getting turned into a punchline mid-fight could end his run fast. Then how about domain expansions? Could they actually affect Ichigo? The answer is yes. You see, Ichigo runs on spiritual energy, which is basically cursed energy, but a more amplified high-octane version. So domains with guaranteed hits are still super dangerous. One clean malevolent shrine slashing everything or unlimited void overwhelming his senses, and it's lights out. But here's where Ichigo shines. His growth is absolutely ridiculous. Survive his first trap and he'll adapt fast. Figure out a counter, crank his Ryatsu to overwhelm the domain, or just blitz before it fully expands next time. That insane adaptability is why he's still solid B tier. He clears the Culling games, but it takes a few weeks of getting beat down and coming back stronger every time. This next character is definitely weaker than Ichigo though, but he's got a lot more potential for a faster victory. Denji. Even though Denji lacks a mature brain and basically sucks at strategizing, he's one of the most likely MCs to be able to clear the Culling games, and here's why. He's pretty much immortal. His entire approach to combat is needless gore and violence on a level far higher than anyone on the cast of JJK is capable of, especially since Denji's body is basically chainsaws when he transforms. In his Pochita form, Denji has Deadpool-like regeneration abilities. He can basically respawn whenever he wants. Not only that, he can use his chainsaw chains like whips to basically cut down anyone he wants. On top of everything else, Denji can tank basically anything. All he needs is some blood to make it seem like nothing happened to him in the first place. Guaranteed hits, cursed techniques, cursed tools, none of those things really matter to Denji since he can simply walk everything off without even countering it. Within seconds, in a close-ranged fight, Denji is dismembering anyone who decides to fight him, even if they're cursed spirits. His only real weakness is his perverted mind, same, but none of the players in the Culling games are pretty enough for him to consider sparing them from his violent rampage. So, basically and realistically speaking, Denji would easily clear the entire roster all the way to Kenjaku. He's definitely a low S tier. It would take him 3 to 4 days tops to clear the Culling games. Denji's lacking moral compass is a big advantage that he has over this next character, Midoriya. As a combatant, Izuku is not a person anyone would consider a pushover if they fought him at his peak. Armed with the powers of One For All, Midoriya has impossible speed feats and strength that are comparable to the kind of damage output Sukuna is capable of. However, what Midoriya doesn't have is a strong enough resolve to deal with the scenarios that are going to play out in front of him. First of all, there's no denying this kid is an absolute tank despite his meek build. He can withstand the abuse his own body takes from using One For All, on top of the absolute beatings his enemies give him. But that kind of fatal strike JJK characters are known to use during their fight might lead Midoriya to his downfall. See, he doesn't have any regen abilities at all, and not only that, he's still just an innocent kid who's not prepared to kill anyone for the sake of survival. He can cripple the sorcerers with his powers all he'd like, but eventually they'll get back up and deliver the killing blow because he simply can't. And you might think having no cursed energy makes him immune to domain expansion sure hits, and yeah, that holds for most closed barrier domains. But top tiers like Sukuna can run open barrier versions like Malevolent Shrine, which just slashes everything in range regardless of cursed energy. It shredded normal humans in Shibuya with 0 issues, so Midoriya is getting diced the same way. So that leaves him with no real counter to guaranteed hits or weird domain rules overwhelming him fast. His combat experience is already outclassed by Heian-era monsters, and even if he somehow teams up with stronger players early, Kenjaku's mind games and manipulation would break him eventually. So, despite packing serious power, Midoriya is our first straight D tier on the list. He's not clearing the Culling games, period. Sorry, buddy, he can go to Burger King with Madara. But anyway, here's a character who's stronger than Midoriya, but will probably suffer the same fate. Mob. Kageyama Shigeo is undoubtedly equal to Saitama when it comes to psychic powers and the kind of feats he's capable of when he's at 100%. The kid can create psychic barriers that cannot be pierced and can destroy entire buildings with merely a thought. He can basically control gravity, warp time, and space around him, and can even atomize a person with just a single thought. This terrifying level of power Mob possesses can easily take out any players in the Culling games. However, at the end of the day, Mob's not just that kind of person. Considering how he's a basic high schooler who's never had the desire to kill, no matter how awful the person in front of him was, Mob's desire to secure any wins would basically be 0. Things like cursed techniques or domain expansions won't work on Mob since he can deflect anything, even if it's a guaranteed hit. The only way he can lose is if he gets attacked by surprise, which the chances of that happening are highly likely since Mob usually never has his guard up. As a combatant, he is basically useless since he's never in that kind of do-or-die mindset. Realistically speaking, Mob is not going to die from anything coming his way, but he'd sooner destroy the entire planet in a mindless rage than clear the Culling games while in his senses. He won't take any measures that would really end the scenario anytime soon. Instead, he'll waste his time trying to talk sense into some of the most evil characters in existence. So, in terms of strength, Mob is an S tier, but for this list, he's going straight to a D as well. Hi Midoriya, what's up? Now, let's knock out the last gag character on the list while we're at it, since this next character is basically on par with Mob and Saitama. MASH. Even though he has the potential to one-shot nearly any power system with the impeccable strength of his muscles, MASH might suffer from the same fate Mob does, since he's not very keen of finishing his opponents off. He's got it all though, the semi-realistic abilities that almost border on Toon Force levels of power, the impossible level of strength and speed needed to rival the likes of Sukuna, and the brains to tackle nearly any enemy that comes gunning for him. What he lacks heavily is a survival instinct though. He's someone who barely ever guards any attacks, and unlike Saitama or Mob, MASH isn't as durable or unstoppable. In his own universe, where fatal attacks are basically a rare event, in the JJK verse, MASH won't be able to survive the kind of deadly offense coming his way. So let's put MASH up against someone like Yuta, for example, a killing machine who has a library of deadly cursed techniques to choose from and nearly every arsenal in the book to kill someone without hesitation. MASH could probably tank a few sword hits here and there, but what would he possibly do against Rika, Shikigami's, or cursed speech? And let's say Yuta won't fight him. What's he going to do against players like Reggie or Drav? Violence is a prerequisite in the JJK universe, and even at the risk of sounding like a broken record at this point, I have to repeat myself when I say people like Mob or MASH aren't going to make it very far. Chances are MASH won't even care to participate anyway. So this puts MASH in the same league as Mob and Midoriya, D tier. Moving on, we have Sung Drip. I mean Jinwoo. When it comes to being ruthless, you can't go wrong with Sung Jinwoo. This man doesn't take nonsense from anyone and has zero hesitation putting down threats if it means achieving his goals. His whole system basically turns life into a video game. He levels up on the fly, grinds stats, stockpiles items, and adapts to any danger once he's scoped it out. Healing potions give him near instant regen, he can buff speed and power whenever he needs, and as a top-tier necromancer, every player he drops just joins his shadow army. That army will snowball fast. Killing a strong sorcerer extracts their shadow, and suddenly, you've got another heavy hitter on your side that scales with him. He's got the raw speed and power to hang with or straight up overpower S-tier threats like Sukuna and Kenjaku, plus the tactical brain to outplay their schemes. Realistically, full Shadow Monarch Jinwoo would solo the entire JJK verse without breaking a sweat. He'd drown them in an infinite shadow army and erase anything that moves. But for the sake of this video, we're sticking to anime-only feats, where he's still building his arsenal but already absurdly strong. While domains and cursed techniques could definitely be a problem for most outsiders, Sung Jinwoo has solid answers. He can shadow swap to dodge domain activation entirely, or tank hits with his ridiculous regen, or just overwhelm the caster with sheer numbers from his shadow army before it even fully expands. Most cursed techniques end up countered anyway. Stealth ambushes, endless summons, swarming the field, or raw stats that straight up outscale them. With everything accounted for, Jinwoo's chances are extremely high. I'm putting him at A tier. He clears the Culling games in under a week, turning half the player roster into his own personal shadow squad along the way. Now, this next character may not be physically gifted like most of the other people on this list, but he makes up for it with his wits. Lelouch v. Britannia. The 11th prince of the Holy Britannian Empire may look like an average, arguably malnourished teenager, but he's someone who possesses an incredible ability. Blessed by the power of something called a Gias, Lelouch can basically command anyone to do anything he wants. On paper, this power sounds very underwhelming, but in practice, it's pretty broken, especially when these orders get extremely violent. Lelouch is not only a pure genius in terms of strategy and tactics, but also someone who knows how to manipulate others and plan ahead. That's exactly how he took down an entire empire and basically changed the way an entire planet's global government system used to function. He can basically outwit anyone, even if it's someone who's been alive for several centuries like Kenjaku. Even if Lelouch is thrown into a scenario like the Culling games purely at random, he has the brains to navigate out of that scenario and even secure a victory. Lelouch also isn't someone who shies away from killing or sacrificing others for the greater good. With a single order issued to anyone in front of him, he can use his Gias to have them basically end their own lives without any resistance. So if any of the Culling games players even try to approach him, he can effectively shut that threat down without even breaking a sweat. His opponents won't even have enough time to cast a domain or use any cursed techniques against him. Not only that, it's effectively impossible to corner him and gang up on him since he's way too good at predicting what his enemies are planning to do next. In terms of durability, he's an easy F-tier character, but given his powers, he's someone who can basically clear the Culling games within a week. This puts him somewhere in an A tier. As confident as I am about Lelouch's placement on the tier list, this next character may make things a bit more complicated for me. Eren Yeager, the fallen protagonist of Attack on Titan. Titan is a powerhouse in this transformed Titan state whose sheer size and overall strength can't be ignored, especially if he's put in a scenario where he's battling sorcerers to the death. With the ability to turn himself into a colossal jacked beast with armored skin and extremely high durability, Eren is someone who can hold his own for quite a bit, even if he's being ganged up on. After all, he's lifted a boulder big enough to create shockwaves when dropped on the ground before. Not only that, he has the ability to basically regenerate from his own injuries, on top of being able to send his own memories into the minds of one of his predecessors. That means he can effectively build countermeasures for players who can surprise him by gifting his own younger self strategies to overcome any hardships through his own father. With his mind, he can control other Titans and communicate with them telepathically or create defensive structures for himself whenever he needs them. However, in a world where only sorcerers exist, there's only so much Eren can do to counter the threats he'd face during the Culling games. Someone like Yuta or Hikari are the most likely candidates to be able to injure or harm Eren and maybe even flat out kill him. Sukuna's Malevolent Shrine or Megumi's Mahagora would inevitably overpower Eren regardless of whatever hacks he's ready to use in order to win. Without his Titan buddies backing him up, Eren is nothing more than a large walking target for every player in his vicinity. His odds of survival are basically nil, and there's no way he's clearing the Culling games. He'll fall short well before Kenjaku merges Japan with Master Tengen. This is why I'd place Eren in D tier. And just like Eren, this next character doesn't seem like he'd be able to get the job done. Natsu. Part human and part curse. Raised by a dragon for most of his childhood, Natsu is a powerhouse in his own verse who's basically able to achieve anything he set out to do thanks to the power of friendship. Fueled by the element of fire, Natsu has complete control over it since he can use Dragon Slayer magic. With the strength of a literal dragon, Natsu can melt the area around him and even tap into Ignil's dormant magic which was left inside of his body. Natsu is also a master of hand-to-hand combat and built like a durable tank. He can take several hits and still come out swinging because he has near limitless endurance and magical ability too. Natsu can also use cursed energy, and unlike what JJK sorcerers can do, this cursed energy gives him insane strength and speed buffs along with some gnarly looking demonic features. He was literally able to use his cursed energy reserves to break through the influence of the god of time in his own verse. His laundry list of versatile attacks and unyielding will make him an excellent combatant, but how well could he really hold on his own against the other players in the Culling game? Well, the answer is simple. He can't. Whether he defeats the other players or not depends entirely upon the way he engages in combat with them. Caught off guard, which he most likely will, Natsu is a sitting duck waiting to get his head chopped clean off. First of all, he's not bloodthirsty enough to kill anyone. Secondly, his greatest assets are the friends on his team providing him motivation and support. Thirdly, he's not built to last in an environment or situations that are completely foreign to him. When compared to the likes of Yuji, Lori, or Kashimi, Natsu's lack of regenerative abilities and inability to predict or counter what comes next makes him especially weak. The odds of him even overcoming a domain expansion are practically zero. The fact that his opponents will aim to kill him every time while he's not ready to do the same puts him at a huge disadvantage, which is why I'd rank him somewhere in low C tier. If he manages to pull through by some miracle, it's going to take him months to clear the Culling game or even survive it. Isaac Netero. The undisputed strongest old man in all of anime after Master Roshi, Isaac Netero is one of the only 3 humans in the Hunter x Hunter verse who originally went to the Dark Continent and actually survived the trip. When faced up against unexplainable calamities during his youth, Netero steeled his body, even further anticipating their arrival, and turned into an absolute monster in his own right, even though he was already the most